Let's start with what won't be on this list. We can skip things like more characters and stages, because that's just obvious and given. Also, I'm going to stay away from things I've criticized in past videos because it feels like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. And while some things will be asking to fix things from Sparking Zero, there will be stuff that no game in the series has done before. Also, this is a wish list, meaning I'm aiming for stuff that I think would be really cool to see, not necessarily what is realistic. So with all that in mind, let's get started. First, let's start with, I want a sequel over DLC. The biggest reason why is there are some issues which are core to the way Sparking Zero functions right now that would be easier to work through if they were just removed. The best way to do that is with a sequel. Sure, you can update games to fix things, but it's very tricky to get that right. Trust me, I play Final Fantasy XIV. So I'll be approaching this list based on seeing things in a sequel rather than DLC or updates. If it comes out that way, I won't complain, assuming it's good, but keep in mind, that's how we're going to be doing things. Content. This was the biggest reason behind why Sparking Zero started to be viewed more negatively, let's say. If the game had more content so people could actually play it, then a lot of the problems people are having would just fall to the side. At least that's what I think would have happened anyway. Regardless of that, we need more content in the game. I still hold that these games shine the brightest not as competitive fighting games, but as basically party games where you fight. So while it very much does need a versus mode, that should not be the real focus of the game for content. What you need are some more single player modes, some challenges for the game to throw at you, like survival battles, or perhaps something where people can compete for a score on a leaderboard. There are way too many ways to really talk about. The bottom line is, the game just needs stuff besides story and verses that is actually meaningful to play. What we got instead was custom battle. Now, what I assume the devs were going for here were allowing players to make content so the game could always be getting new things. This could have solved the problem that is bound to come up with really no matter how much content you put in the game, eventually people will clear all of it. So this certainly could have done that, but sadly it wasn't meant to be. There are many reasons why this mode fell flat, but it's not something that needs to be thrown out. If fixed up and refined and not be the sole source of content, then this might be something worth having. If it is removed, I won't cry, but I think it's worth giving another shot. Just with, a far better UI and more options for types of battles like survival or time attack or something. The state of the tournament mode is probably what makes me the most sad. Luckily, it would be easy to fix. Just give good rewards for more than the first clear. You have so many options on how to structure a tournament to make going through one fresh and fun, but there was never a point. I would say you could have the option to pick. One thing they could do is make the options you pick lead to different rewards, so the harder you make it, the more you get. There's a lot you can play around with here, it just needs to be worth playing. Oh, this is something that no game has really hit right on for me. We need to blur the line between combos and rush supers more. We are on fancy enough hardware now that we can fit in some more over-the-top finishers and stuff to the combos. Like here. You could make this something similar to be part of a combo string. Or this. Sure, it would make rush supers harder to make since they would need to be more over the top, but I don't see that as a bad thing. I think the biggest problem with attacks right now aren't the rush attacks or smashes or any of those things. The pursuit attacks have no flash or style or anything. On top of that, they're the same for every character. This is a prime place to put some fun stuff. Maybe take a note from Dragon Rushes from Budokai 3 and have the pursuit attacks be a little combo. Have a little stun punch where you can do your defense, miss, and then you have a little combo or something play out before blowing you away again. I just want to see the spectacle of the game go up like 2 tiers. Really blow me away with all the cool stuff. Buffs have always kind of felt a bit bleh. The main reason is the effects feel too underwhelming and they don't last long enough. Sparking Zero did make them easier to do given they now have little scenes rather than needing time for every use, but they still feel a bit pointless to use. Like when someone uses finish sign, they never feel like, oh no, now if they land a super, I'm gonna die. It's always more like, that happened. Something needs to be done to make these actually feel good to use. Also, bring back the key debuff from using an instant sparking move. Apart from buffs not feeling worth it often, they also need to flow better. For example, if you use the boost and have finish sign, you could use that instead of just the normal boost to really punch up your super attack's power. Things that boost your defense could be activated while you're getting hit. Change when things can be activated to make them feel more natural and actually good to use. Having real tag team attacks is something I've always wanted to see expanded upon in these games. Sure, Raging Blast did a good job at introducing them, but they were too restricted there, and they were only a fancy way of ending a fight. I'm sure we'll survive if supers and ultimate change based on who's on your team without needing to do a boost and having the enemy be on their last health bar. It would certainly make team building far more fun if this were the case. It could help alleviate some of the weaker characters by giving them some stronger moves. Also, apart from supers and stuff, we just need some generic tag team attacks. Sure, in Sparking Zero you can tag out and have them hit the opponent, but this is a place where you could put in some of those more crazy attacks I mentioned before. There is so much untapped potential in these games being tag team games, it's sort of impressive it's been unused for this long. The last thing here we need to bring back is the ability to interrupt tagging out from Raging Blast 2. Not the exact same way, as the way it works in Raging Blast 2 is not good really, but the concept is very much something we need. The biggest change it needs is the person tagging out loses whatever little mini-game, is that they don't get to tag out. It'd be a lot more fun if you had some risk to just tagging out randomly. The bottom line here though is that the tag system needs to be more than just having multiple 1v1s that switch around. Look at other games with tag team fights, you get assists and stuff. This is what needs to be expanded badly. We need alternate colors to come back. And I don't just want them on characters without any alternate outfits, everyone should have a player 2 color as it were. Some of them from past games were really good, and the fact we couldn't get a palette swap is weird. I admit, I don't know what goes into making 3D models exactly, but changing the color seems like it would be fairly easy. It would be hard to find good alternate colors, but there are plenty of things to pull from that it should be doable. Aside from that, I would like to see some universal accessories. Like the halo, for example. It just floats over a character's head. You should be able to make that universal. Scouter would be super cool if you could equip it on anyone, but at least more people. I think having the accessory menu there is just asking to be used, and so far it's gone unused, and that needs to be addressed. I would love to see more Raging Blast 2 style customization come back. Having weaker characters having more freedom to equip items as well as the stat down items were super fun. Tone down the stat down items though, or at least tier them, so that they aren't crippling if you put one on. I like the weaker characters getting more from the customization system, mainly because it helps make the gap smaller, without just making it go away. As the stronger characters would still be able to equip items, just have to be a bit more picky. I think it opens up some real fun of making builds and thinking about team building outside of pick Gogeta. Having more than 2 supers and being able to equip them is just better than being locked into the same set. It was fine back when the series was on PS2, but we have moved on from this a long time ago, and there is no reason to keep using that system. Apart from bringing this back, we also need to be able to have more than one ultimate too. And while we're talking about this, can we get counters and command supers back? Having a UI Goku without having any counter supers is criminal. Plus, I would love to see how the new types of counters, like Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan having a counter against beams where he does his Kamehameha. As for the command supers, they were fun since you could either do the whole attack or stop it early to get in some unique combos. Having more types of supers and being able to pick your loadouts opens up more ways for the games to be played and furthers the customization of characters in the best way possible. Yeah, this is hardly anything new or something we haven't seen before, but I still want more what-ifs. To bring up something that really hasn't been seen though, I would love it if we got some more what-if attacks than just characters. I remember back in Raging Blast 1 there was a what-if where Videl started to train under Piccolo. It was the perfect chance to give her like a Masenko attack or something. not just because I think it would be fun, but rather than having the what ifs actually be more than just one-off little story things would be great. Having the little story and also unlock something that can be played around with across the rest of the game. Games don't need to follow any canon or even consistency, so I say let loose and have fun. Plus, it would help the game to have more of a unique identity if what ifs aren't universal across all games. One could be the one with, I don't know, Super Saiyan 3 Caulifla. Not saying they need to be unique, but play around and see if something works. You can stick around. If not, it was at least worth trying. There's a lot you can do with what ifs in games, and it needs to be played around with more. This is something that needs to be touched on more, but the fact Milo's ultimate makes the whole screen red when you use it is an effect that we really need more of. Having the screen take on the color when a key attack is used was just a thing that used to happen. So for some, stressing the some here, attacks, it will be really good effect to bring onto them. I would imagine Roshi should have this on attack for certain. And while we're on the topic of attack effects, can this series get beams going off of planets? Seriously, this hasn't been a thing like ever for BT and Raging Blast. Blowing up planets and seeing it from space? Yes. Beams flying off into space? No. Now, my memory could be failing me, very easily in fact, but this needs to be a thing. Final Flash isn't really Final Flash without it. And of course, the planet-wide show of planet destruction. You can show it starting, but then cut away to the big boom. And more planets besides Namek need this too. Giants need to go. I know this is going to be controversial, but I don't think they work well as playable characters. Bosses? Yes, they work there. As playable characters though, they cause so many problems. The fact they're just immune to most rushes makes some characters useless against them. What this also does is limit how you can fight against them entirely. Either pick a character who can actually stun them with rush attacks, or get ready to spam beams. That or keep spamming sparking mode so you can actually use rush attacks. The limits you have really do make them no fun to fight against at all. Playing as them isn't much better either. They have no real combo game, so you have a very limited moveset, which means you have characters that limit how you can fight them while being limited themselves. So everything just gets worse when they show up. I do get that taking them out would limit the roster and make some characters just not show up in the game at all, unless they're unplayable bosses, but I really do think it would make the game better overall if they weren't playable. Is this everything I would want to see? No, probably not, but at some point I need to make the video instead of just thinking about things I want to put in it. As I said, fix things I've talked about in my review and other videos, add the basic things people would expect from a sequel, and even put in just half of what's here, and you could easily be looking at the best game in the series. Sparking Zero is actually closer to being a really good game than it seems most people think, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't aim for the stars for a sequel.